So welcome everybody. We're all volunteers here, yet we do incur some expenses, largely promotion. We've promoted online, on the radio, and in print. And if you know of a viable place for us to promote, please let us know. Please share that too. We also have some associated expenses for just being a 501c3 and some regulatory fees that we have to pay. So if you can see your way clear to $10, $20, $100, if you do $100, we'll send you a free t-shirt with your $100 donation, a logo t-shirt. Just tell us your size, your color preference, and where to send it, and we'll be happy to do that. So you can see our website for more details on that. We're taking the month of August off, no public meeting next month, but look for our newsletter in your email. And if you're not on our email distribution list, tell us. We'd be happy to send it to you. We promise not to disabuse the privilege of sending you an email. September 19th, we have Gina Gamba, who will offer a presentation about street epistemology, where we might learn whether or not the confidence in a claim by an interlocutor is justified by how they arrived at their conclusion. If you know what I just said, tell me later. All right, on October 17th, Gwen Bradshaw is a former preacher's wife who's turned atheist, who now hosts a radio program called Nude Radio. She has a fascinating story, and she's also part of the Recovering from Religion organization. But tonight, we are very pleased to welcome priest Joe Dee. And I believe you're doing a co-presentation. Is that correct with John, or is it just priest Joe Dee? I don't know, but we'll find out. But priest Joe Dee, I know, is doing the presentation, who is the co-congregation head and the media co-chair of the Satanic Temple of New York City. Priest Joe Dee will discuss sobriety without superstition, a science of ritual challenges to the tenets of the traditional 12-step program. He is...
They, them.
They, them, not, okay. People ask me, I say it, and I don't know what that means, but that's all right. They, them is an addiction recovery coach and a certified recovery peer advocate in New York State and a certified naloxone trainer. Now, a discussion will follow the presentation, and JD's presentation. Well, should you prefer, you may message a question via the Zoom chat, or you may put up your virtual hand or raise your hand, and we'll go around the room. Everybody gets a chance to speak. Everyone who wants to speak will be given ample opportunity to do so. Be reminded, we are recording for posterity. So let's enjoy the time and expertise and insights graciously offered to us by priest Joe Dee. Joe, we're all yours. Take it away.
First of all, thank you all so much for that lovely introduction and the chat. Just before we started, everyone seems so lovely here, and we are excited to be here. I do have my co-director of the Satanic Temple Sober Faction, Reverend John Eldridge, joining us. I'll be poking him for some comments as I go through this presentation. I'm going to share my screen now because I have some handy dandy slides here. Let's see if I'm able to do this again. Everyone see me? Okay. Now let's see. New slideshow from beginning. Here we are. Technology. Again, thank you so much. I am the co-director of the Satanic Temple Sober Faction, which is an official campaign of the Satanic Temple. The Satanic Temple is a federally recognized tax-exempt religious organization. Sober Faction is a peer support recovery group that offers an alternative approach to recovery from addiction, more so than the well-known mainstream peer support groups. Our wish is to assure those who are suffering from addiction find recovery without having to experience the undue burden of religious dogma and superstition. The main facets of our program consist of our meetings, our community, our allyship, and our 7 rituals. We currently have over 13 virtual meetings a week at a variety of times and with a range of formats. Each facilitator decides what type of meeting they wish to hold. We feel that offering a variety of meeting styles keep folks motivated and engaged with their recovery instead of every meeting following the same format and becoming monotonous, which can cause many people to lose that momentum and actually kind of dread attending their recovery support meetings. Some of our formats consist of topic discussions, of course. We also have the Art of Recovery meeting where members can volunteer to present a creative outlet that helps them in their recovery, like art or music, writing, dance, comedy, whatever, fire breathing, whatever they wish to share that helps them or that just brings them joy and that they wish to share with the community. And then afterwards, a discussion takes place. We also have the Saturday morning cartoons book club, where members can suggest a book that somehow relates to addiction and recovery, fiction, nonfiction, it doesn't matter. We love it all. And we discuss the book each week. And that's actually, don't tell anyone, that's my favorite meeting. We also have the Heathen Hearts, which is a meeting that focuses on intersectionality. There's Memento Mori that focuses on grief and survivor's guilt. TW focuses on trauma and other more sensitive topics. These are just a few examples of the meetings that are recurring weekly at Sober Faction. We also have weekly virtual socials where the community can get to know each other more and just hang out, building friendships and allyships and that community again. One we have each week is called Mephisto's Mocktail Mixer, and another is Recovery Radio Request Line. Music comes up a lot in Sober Faction and how it helps folks in recovery and just in life in general, which is interesting and important. I think music is important. And because we believe in the pursuit of knowledge and in science, we regularly have professional guest speakers give talks on different aspects of the science of addiction and recovery, mental health, etc. We have at least one professional speaker talk a month, but usually more than that. We also have regular panel discussions on different topics of interest. We feel that everyone should have a basic understanding of what is happening to them physically and mentally during active addiction, withdrawal, and in the different stages of recovery, so they know what to expect and prepare accordingly. We find that in many mainstream peer support groups and 12-step programs, that's absent from the meetings. There's no real discussion about what's actually physically and mentally happening to someone who's in addiction or searching for recovery or in active recovery. And it's just, in our minds, so important to have that just foundational understanding of what's happening. Then we have developed a facilitator training so others can organize their own virtual and in-person meetings. We want to ensure that anyone who wishes to host their own Sober Faction meetings are well-versed in our program, as well as general meeting etiquette and safety. To aid us in this endeavor, we've created the Facilitator Training and Upkeep Legion, FAL. We do love our acronyms over at Sober Faction and fun names. Once someone completes the training, we conduct a background check. Of course, we understand that many people who have experiences with addiction may have some sort of criminal infraction on their record. So we invite those interested in the training to let us know about anything that may come up so that we can have a discussion about the specific circumstances surrounding whatever it is. We just want to make sure that there's no egregious conduct or threat to our members. So I mentioned our community being one of the major facets of Sober Faction. It is really the backbone. We foster an online community that truly exhibits support and acceptance. There is no shame or guilt regarding anyone's journey or history. There is no promotion of one right way to be in recovery. We support anyone who utilizes harm reduction or medical assisted treatment, or those who even still may recreationally use one substance over others that they may be abstaining from. Our program isn't about telling someone what is right for them. It's about supporting them and making those decisions, figuring out, helping them figure out what is right for them. We also have a large queer population in our community because so many queer folks don't feel safe or comfortable in more mainstream programs. We have many members of different beliefs and religions who didn't feel comfortable expressing those beliefs or being themselves in other spaces, or people who were just looking for a better fit for their personality and lifestyle. We encourage dialogues on all topics, all trauma, sex workers, codependency, other behavioral or process addictions, whatever someone is comfortable sharing, free from any sort of negative feedback or judgment. The energy in our meetings and in our private Facebook group is what a compassionate, supportive community was always meant to be, in my opinion. And again, that's one of our lovely acronyms, our Community Building and Allyship Legion, Cabal, who help us moderate our Facebook group and build that community and run our allyship program, which I'll get to later. Allyship. We have also created our allyship program that consists of peers in recovery working through the seven rituals together, offering support, mutual guidance, and friendship without judgment and hierarchy. The allyship program differs from common sponsorship style mentorships in that there is no teacher-student dichotomy. All are students as well as teachers, learning from and guiding each other as needed. To be an ally, you don't need to have completed all the rituals or have a certain number of years sober. Everyone has something to offer and can be an active and supportive ally to others in recovery. The allyship program is meant to encourage members to reach out to someone if they are struggling, just to help them get into that habit of reaching out and feeling comfortable doing so. And of course, to have someone to work through the rituals with and just be, well, an ally in recovery. Now, I've mentioned them a lot, our seven rituals. Many are taken aback by the word ritual, especially when hearing that we are non-theistic and anti-superstition. Rituals serve a purpose. There are numerous scientific studies that indicate that rituals have immense psychological benefits, which in turn benefit individuals physically and mentally. Humans are ritualistic by nature. There are evolutionary biological reasons why all humans engage in some type of ritual. It really comes down to safety and survival. Individual rituals mark significant moments in time, in life. They help generate memories. They help set intentions and goals. They relieve stress and anxiety and foster a sense of control over a situation. Group rituals foster bonding and strengthen community. And all these aspects can be said about Sober Faction's seven rituals as well. In addition, we developed them utilizing cognitive behavior and dialectical behavior techniques, as well as motivational talk therapy. We promote science and understanding in our program, as well as self-empowerment. Reverend John can probably speak to the difference between the rituals and the 12 steps a lot. He has more experience in Alcoholics Anonymous than I do, because the first couple of times I went to AA meetings millions of years ago, I just walked right out because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like I could be myself. just didn't feel right for me. And that's not to say it's not right for others. We joke a lot and poke fun at AA a lot. And while there is something to be said about those who have the opinion that it is cult-like and really doesn't work, it does work for some people, and we can't judge that. Not the same thing is right for one as it is for another. I don't know if Jonathan, you want to talk about the difference really between the rituals and the steps a little bit?
Sure thing. I'll try to not go on an hour-long rant about it with rage and trauma, but I'll do my best. So one of the biggest things you'll notice with a difference is with Sober Faction, our approach is very much based on science and self-compassion and self-care. We are not seeking towards mystical higher powers to fix our medically recognized issue. I've always felt that you can find issues with the 12 steps with the first two words in the 12 steps, which is we admitted in step 1. When substance use disorder and addiction's a medically recognized issue, why would you have to admit to having it? No one has to admit to having polio. No one has to admit to any other medical recognized disease. That instantly starts creating an issue of guilt and harm and wrongdoing for some, which is unheard of for any other thing according to science. As it goes further, the 12-step process very much incorporates superstition for one, and a lot of shame and guilt, especially as you get further into the 4th step, which is creating your moral inventory, is the way they call it. Your moral inventory in AA essentially has you write down every traumatic experience in your life and finds out why it was your fault, which is pretty, which did me a lot of harm. I was in the 12-step program for several years because it was the only option I had. I was desperate and wanted help and wanted to change my life. And it was the only thing that was presented to me. And I faked it till I made it, is the way they presented it to me. And it created a lot of struggles that were completely unnecessary until it stopped working. And I realized for what it was, and it was broke away. And over time, we met Jody and I met online. We started building this to really create an environment that's based off science for one, and compassion, because we're not telling you that you're a terrible person, you need to change your life. We're here to tell you you're an awesome person and you can build the life you want, that you're not alone in this. So those are kind of like the key differences before I go on a massive tangent. Is there anything else you want me to touch on with that, Jody?
That was perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you. I'm gonna reshare my screen. Here we are. Everyone can see that? Yeah, it's back. Okay. So, as Reverend John said, we don't endorse the idea of being powerless or defective in any way. We don't ask anyone to submit their will and power to anyone else, especially not a supernatural being. We strive to allow folks to take back their power, to take back control over their lives and their wills. Each ritual begins with a set of introspective questions. Some are always solution and progress focused, like the Reverend alluded to. Then each culminates in an actual physical ritual to mark the completion and offer that sense of fulfillment and progress. So everything I've described so far comprises the main structure of TST Sober Faction, the program itself. We've come to realize that recovery is more than just going to meetings and discussing addiction and recovery with allies and peers. Addiction and recovery are huge, complex issues that vary based on life experience, race, gender, economic status, culture, geography, stigma, trauma, the list goes on. Not only do we, Sober Faction's directors and council, but many of our members recognize this and want to give back, want to help deconstruct these systems that influence how addiction is perceived, how it is promoted in certain ways, how it is treated, etc. They want to help bring awareness and educate on these issues because we all believe so much in this program and in deconstructing all the stigmas and pseudoscience that persist around addiction and recovery. So with our members, Sober Faction created Sober Faction Outreach, which consists of what we like to call legions. Each legion is focused on a specific focus of addiction and recovery. Focused on a focus. That's a weird sentence. Right now, we have the College Legion, the Health and Wellness Legion, and the BIPOC Block Legion. The College Legion is working on bringing Sober Faction meetings to college campuses, as well as to bring awareness to and help change the culture surrounding higher learning and excessive drinking and sexual assault as normalized, almost expected. We intend to establish that none of that is normal or acceptable. The Health and Wellness Legion is working on compiling a state-by-state secular resource guide to make available to our members who need any sort of assistance, be it for mental health or housing, treatment centers. There will be other focus groups and meetings as well under the Health and Wellness Legion, like friends and family of those in recovery, yoga, Sober Faction meetings in hospitals and institutions, and more. Also under this legion is our Crisis Peer Support Sublegion. They reach out to those who may have suicidal ideation, thoughts of self-harm or harm to others. They are required in this sublegion to take certain trainings on best practices in handling these cases. They will offer support, listen, and provide resources based on the situation. But I do want to make clear that we emphasize that we are not medical professionals. Many of us have certifications in peer coaching, peer advocacy. Some in our legions are even licensed and professional counselors or therapists outside of Sober Faction, but no one is working in a professional capacity within. We are offering support and guidance and encourage everyone to seek help from outside medical professionals. The BIPOC block helps us review our materials and projects, messaging, etc., to help ensure we are complying with anti-racism and encouraging inclusion, as well as lifting marginalized voices and complying with anti-white supremacist hierarchies as well, which is, it's definitely difficult and it's a lot of work because that stuff is really kind of embedded in our society and our cultures and our organizations. So it's very important that we have this legion helping us, and we are grateful for everyone in it helping us do that work. They also organize panel discussions and special talks surrounding intersectionality and other experiences BIPOC folks have in addiction and recovery. More legions will develop in the future. All of these endeavors take a lot of time, work, and volunteers, but we are fortunate for the amazing Sober Family members who work so hard with us. So just a quick recap. This was a lot. The Satanic Temple Sober Faction provides a necessary space free from the pseudoscience and superstitious dogma entrenched in most mainstream peer support recovery programs. Our unique method is guided by TST's 7 tenets and utilizes the 7 rituals crafted specifically for our recovery program by applying our deeply held beliefs and therapeutic practices. The ritual process promotes self-empowerment while giving structure to each individual's recovery journey. Our group recognizes and respects that there are multiple perspectives and multiple approaches to recovery. We want to encourage pluralism in recovery programs and give people seeking help a choice. Sober Faction is empowered to sign off on mandated peer support meetings and will advocate on anyone's behalf who is forced into a faith-based program who doesn't share those beliefs. And that is the overview of Sober Faction. There is so much that goes into our day-to-day work with Sober Faction. So this was just like dumping information on you. And I would love to hear thoughts, questions, comments, and I'll just put up this last slide, which is our invocation of power. I grant myself the courage to take responsibility for my own actions, the power to let go of that which does not serve me, and the wisdom to seek help when needed. Hail Lilith, hail Satan.
All right. Well, thank you, Priest Joe Dee. I appreciate it very much. I really do. I see Reverend John's got your hand up. You want to add to or ask a question or promote more thought for us?
Yes, well, thank you. Amazing job as always, Jody. One thing I thought might be helpful, since a lot of people here are new to Satanism and TST, is just the 7 tenets and kind of read through those, because it's the strong moral principles of TST, and it kind of gives you an idea of what our focus is in general as TST, even outside of Sober Faction. We kind of read through these tenets, and it's funny, a lot of people, when you read them to someone blindly, not knowing where they're coming from, they're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And then you go, well, that's the views of the Satanic Temple. They're like, oh, right. So here's the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple. 1, one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. 2, the struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. 3, one's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. 4, the freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own. 5, belief should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs. 6, people are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused. And finally, 7, every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. I thought that would help give a little bit more context for those who are unfamiliar with the Satanic Temple to begin with, just to know that it has nothing to do with a literal Satan or devil worship.
Right. Well, Reverend, that's fascinating to me, I've known of the Satanic Temple for many years, but I've never met you or anybody who's here tonight, and nor have I attended any of the events. But using the word Satan in your marketing has that because we think of the devil, we think of Lucifer, and when we think of the biblical construct, we think of Lucifer and the devil and Satan trying to induce falsehoods into human beings. What you just read is beautiful. So how do you reconcile the name versus what your outreach is trying to do?
Oh, I think we both can jump in on this, because
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
We get a lot. And one thing that I can say in response to that is Satan is a symbol to us. Of course, like the tenets, like our mission, we're non-theistic. We don't believe in anything superstitious, in God or in Satan, but we do respect symbolism. And our Satan, the one that is our kind of icon, like that's in our iconography, and who we use as the symbol of rebellion and standing up to tyranny and arbitrary authority, is really compiled from the Romantic writers and the Enlightenment era, and like John Milton's Satan. It's that advocate for actual free will, free thought, and not succumbing to an oppressive authority. So with that Satan is a powerful figure for us, and we think is very much needed in a society where one religious dominant thought in our culture and in society is really taking over and finding its way into our laws, into our schools, into our government. So we now, it seems like so much more than ever, need that symbol of the adversary, the rebel, to stand up against that. There needs to be a balance. I don't know if, John, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, thank you, Jody. And one thing is said often in TST with the question of why Satan. One of the quotes I like is, adversary you make us, then adversary we shall be. Growing up, and like, you would have told me 6 years ago that I'd be a minister of the Satanic Temple, I would have told you you're crazy. But growing up, everything that I felt passionate about in life, I was told was evil, right? You know, supporting LGBTQ rights, evil. Free love, evil. Dungeons and Dragons and metal music, evil. And at some point, like, well, if that's evil, then sign me up, right? Like, if believing in science and having compassion and caring for people and all these things, then consider me your adversary. And a lot of it, I feel a good metaphor is the book, The Scarlet Letter, right? Using a symbol that's been used to shame somebody and turning it around as a symbol of strength, even though others may find it shocking and disturbing. We take that and put it to ourselves and get empowered by it and are able to feel strength in community as being the other, but standing up for what's right and not feeling like we have to conform to what's the standard of what's accepted and what's considered religion. So we fully believe that what we have at the Satanic Temple isn't just some people like to say, oh, their Satanic Temple is just spooky atheists or atheists with more special effects, which to an extent is kind of true, but we also do fully believe that this is our religion. It's more than just marketing. While it does help get us more attention when needed in the media, it's definitely symbolism, mythos, iconography that's deeply meaningful to us and really makes us feel a new sense of purpose with what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. That's a great answer. That's a great answer. We're going to go around the room. I got two more quick questions for you, and this is going to seem maybe a silly question, but I'm going to preface it with Dean Martin. Dean Martin used to say, and you know, he played a drunk. He never really was the drunk that he used to play in talk shows and in movies and all of that. But he used to say in his act that I feel sorry for people who don't drink, because when they wake up in the morning, that's as good as they're going to feel all day long. So here's the question, or explain to us, and this is where it might seem simplistic, but I think it's worthwhile to hear from you. Why is sobriety important?
Love that question. I think I can respond to that quote about that's the best you're going to feel all day, but it doesn't talk about when you're waking up the next morning, how you're going to be feeling. So sobriety doesn't have to be important to everyone. Sobriety is important to me for a myriad of reasons. One being that I won't be able to function and have a functioning life if I'm not sober. I won't be able to participate in society if I'm not sober. It's important because I wouldn't have a life if I wasn't sober. But that's not going to be the same answer universally for everyone. And I think sobriety and recovery is so unique to the individual. And that actually has a lot to do with the Sober Faction program, because like I mentioned in the presentation, we support anyone's vision of what sobriety or recovery is to them. And that doesn't even have to be complete abstinence from everything. I think there's a big misconception about what recovery is versus what sobriety is. I can be sober and not in recovery. I could just be abstinent and not in recovery, just miserable. But I am active in my recovery now, and that has given me a life worth living. So that would be my answer to that.
That's interesting, because I do believe it's probably different for everybody, but I think you're probably hitting on a very similar theme for those who are seeking sobriety and have difficulty with, the tolerance of a lot of times they talk about, one drink and then I've got a second and a third, and then it's a drug or whatever it is, and I just don't know how to control myself, so I got to cut it all out. And then they realize this is so much better. I'm actually enjoying life.
Right. I actually remember some things.
Right.
Ringo
Starr is constantly asked about what happened during the 60s and 70s. And he said, I have no idea. I was stoned and drunk the whole time. I can't remember a thing. Let's go around the room and see who has other questions. Let's start with Fred. Hi, Fred. Unmute.
Okay, I'm muted. I just turned 60, but and I got a t-shirt saying I survived the 60s twice from a court. But anyways, my comment is that okay, both my parents, this is going back when I was a teenager, decades ago, but both my parents they drank a lot. My mom, she was really an alcoholic, and my dad was more controlled about it. My mom got drunk at home. My dad got drunk at bars. And my dad's behavior became like a lush, like real friendly and just really like a different personality. And my mom, she became really morose. And the one time she did go on a rampage, this is after my parents had divorced. But I wonder if your organization includes or maybe reaches out to maybe children or other family members or people who are dealing with either alcoholic parents or people with various addictions. And I mean, for me, it impacted my childhood. I mean, I was the oldest of 3 children, and I became very withdrawn. I admit it, probably other reasons, but still dealing with my parents, that kind of had an impact on me. And eventually my mom she did go to Alcoholics Anonymous for a month. She realized she had a problem. She'd been already an alcoholic for over 10 years before that. My dad just gradually stopped drinking as much, but I was wondering if you can address what the impact for either both family and even friends, people who are seriously addicted.
Yes, I'm so happy you brought that up, because addiction doesn't just affect the person who is going through it. It affects everyone in their circle. And we are actually at present developing a friends and family group, our sub-legion, under our health and wellness legion. And there's Al-Anon and other groups like that cater to loved ones of those in recovery or with addiction. And those programs have the loved ones follow the same steps that are promoted to those with addiction. And we've discovered that the friends, family, and loved ones of the person who's addicted or has addictive issues or behaviors, those needs and what they go through are completely different than the person who is struggling with addiction. So those steps don't really apply fully to that group of people. So we are in the process of developing rituals for the friends and family, for the loved ones of those struggling with addiction, because their experiences are unique and need a different set of rituals and guidance and support. So we will be rolling out a friends and family legion. That's probably the most frequent question we get in our emails and messaging our loved ones of those battling addiction, looking for support that's free from superstition. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I hope everyone keeps an eye out for that. And we are also in the future going to also develop a youth program, but there's a whole other set of kind of things we need to really make sure we have figured out for that, so to make sure we're doing it in a healthy way and in the proper way to handle youth.
I think another nice thing about what we have here at Sober Faction, and Joe Dee mentioned it earlier, is we do have medical professionals giving presentations regularly, giving educational speeches about addiction and what that looks like. That many have found helpful to come to learn about addiction from a scientist, and so they can understand what's going on with a loved one and a friend or family. They've also enjoyed coming to meetings and just coming into listening to the experiences so they can learn from the other side of their perspectives. We also have people in Sober Faction with a wide variety of coming for different forms of recovery. People who aren't have any issues with substance use, but are there for eating disorder or anxiety issues and things of that nature. So it's a whole spectrum of support that we have going on. So it's been, and that's why I've been, like Joy said, expanding so hard to work on the friends and family meeting, because there's so much more of a need than just people who are struggling with drugs and alcohol.
Great.
Okay, Fred, your hand is still up. Do you have a follow-up? Or
no.
you? Okay, then let's go to Morgana. Morgana.
Good evening, my lovelies. It is so nice to be in your company. Thank you so much to the Free Thought Society for playing host to us Sober Faction folks. As someone who's a member of what they so rightly called our Sobramily, I just wanted to chime in and say that, speaking only for myself, it is an absolutely life-saving group of people. Life-changing is great, but I can say with certainty I would not still be here if I had not found this wonderful group of people and their approach to sobriety without superstition. In particular, the notion of allyship, beyond our specific one-on-one connections that we're encouraged to make with folks of like mind, of different mind, whatever we think is going to be enriching. There is this general sense of, people who don't need necessarily to know you personally to care about you and wish you well and wish you success. And in times as dark as these, with a task as daunting as fighting addiction is, having something like that is not tied to what is it we say in the invocation, a fealty to arbitrary social norms or these fake categories that they're trying, these boxes they try and put people into, or any other of what we call an arbitrary authority. Being able to find people who love and care about you just because you are, and because for that reason alone you deserve it, without feeling the need to tie some sort of dogma or superstition to it. Like I say, it's the only reason that I am still here. So speaking only for myself, hail these folks. Absolutely. They are wonderful, wonderful people. I'm so happy that you got a chance to hear from them, because this is a really wonderful thing that we have going.
Morgana, thank you for that testimonial. Priest Joe and Reverend John are, smiling right now. That's great, and well deserved. I'm certain. Do you have a question for them, or just that comment?
Well, I mean, in anything else they want to add about the whole allyship process, I don't think enough can be said about it. It's truly wonderful.
Cool. Well, let's go to Jessica W. Jessica W., my first question to you, Jessica, is, are you related to Bill W.?
Depends on what W stands for.
Okay. And Bill W. is the guy who's credited with starting AA, right?
Right. So I have a question and then a comment. So the question is, what plans, if any, are in the works for expanding the in-person Sober Faction meetings, because you are on the meeting with a Jacksonville, Florida, First Coast, free thought society. And I would love to be able to meet other Sober Faction people in this area. So that's my question, and then I'll get to my comment.
Oh, good question.
Okay, so first, I would suggest joining our private Facebook group. I think Reverend John put our LinkTree and webpage in the chat, because you'll find the community there, and can maybe hook up with an ally or other folks in your area through our Facebook community, and just start being an active part of the community and check it out and see what it's all about. So we are almost at that point where we're going to release the facilitator training into the wild. We took a long time developing our facilitator training to ensure it's done properly, and our facilitators are accurately representing Sober Faction and our values, and just are safe, and that we are securing all the right locations. And we have a list of guidelines for where a Sober Faction meeting can take place, and what accessibility needs are required, and safety and all that. So we have been going through the facilitator training with our internal volunteers first to work out any kinks that may be in the process, and to make sure it's living up to our standards. Then we are going to roll it out kind of in phases. We're going to roll it out then to the Satanic Temple congregations and all the states where there's a local congregation. Those congregations can suggest folks who they think will be good for the facilitator training, and they can start up in-person meetings for their congregations, and then from there more publicly. But if a local congregation starts in-person meetings in their area, they are open to the public. All Sober Faction meetings are open to the public, because we feel that anyone who would want to or could benefit from Sober Faction meetings should be able to do so. You don't have to be a Satanist or a member of the Satanic Temple.
That's a very good point. You don't have to be a member of any temple to join. There's the effort is sobriety, and all the different it takes, and people that come with their issues. That's the effort. Jessica, do you have a follow-up?
It's funny because that's actually what my comment was going to be, is that you offered for me to join the community. I should have prefaced with that I have been a member of the community for probably about 2 months, and I made the decision to go sober 3 weeks ago. It was through the sober curiosity that I started looking, and I found it, and I kind of just lurked for a while. And I was like, and then one morning after drinking too much, I decided, I think I want to be done with that. So my comment was going to be that when I signed up for the private Facebook group during the questionnaire period, it asked me, do you align, or are you a member of the Satanic Temple, or do you identify as a Satanist? And my comment was that no, I am an agnostic / atheist person who believes in the tenets, and I was welcomed into the group. So at no point, you mentioned that at no point do you have to be a Satanist or a member of the Satanic Temple in order to appreciate this wonderful community.
Thank you.
Very good.
I just want to say that our join request questions for the private group are just for our personal vetting purposes, because we are affiliated. We're a campaign of the Satanic Temple. There is an other kind of layer of safety that we need to ensure for our members. by the TST and Satanism question, it's kind of trying to weed out folks that are just there to kind of give us hell, if you will. So yeah, we want to make sure there's no real hateful folks joining the group. That's probably my mom calling in the background.
All right. Well, all right. Zach, Jessica, if you're done, your hand is still up, but you
Oh,
can.
yeah, sorry.
Okay,
I
that's
will
fine.
lower that.
That's fine. Zach, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I have a question about the word temple in Satanic Temple, because temple has a religious connotation to me and probably to other people. I'm curious to hear from the speakers who are saying it's a non-theistic group. What is the reason for the use of the word temple?
Do you want to take it, John?
So we are a non-theistic religion. We do not consider ourselves a non-religious group. We are a non-theistic religion. So first, we do fully believe that the Satanism, specifically the Satanic Temple's sect of Satanism, is 100% our religion. We are ordained ministers of an actual religion. It's fully meaningful to us. And a lot of times that confuses some. So how can you be a religion without theism? There's one that's very well known that gets overlooked in that conversation. That's Buddhism, isn't actually a non-theistic religion, and no one would bat an eye about hearing about a Buddhist temple. So we do definitely feel that our approach to what we do is very deeply meaningful with deeply held religious beliefs without the need of superstition, in the same way that we as Sober Faction believe that recovery is fully possible and acceptable without the need of superstition and dogma. Hopefully that kind of answers. And anything you want to add to that, Jody?
Yeah, I think one of the founders of the Satanic Temple said when they were deciding a name, there was already the Church of Satan. So the only other thing they could think of was temple. So they just called it the Satanic Temple.
Is it true that you were founded in 2012, the Satanic Temple?
2013, I think.
2013?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's, to me, that's relatively new in templeism. You know, there's been lots of temples that have come before you. But as you said earlier, Reverend John, you said you're also making a play on words. You're doing this in some way to throw it back at those people who think of themselves as basically self-righteous and religiously righteous. So you're using their own terminology against them. Is that, you want to repeat that, or am I misunderstanding it?
I would say it's a little bit of both. I don't think it has to be one way or the other. I believe as Satan, as you know, can also be known as a trickster, right? We can have a sense of humor about what we do and be serious about what we do at the same time. I feel it does make people think about what religion means and when is it appropriate, when it isn't appropriate, and what defines a deeply held belief. So we are very well known of using tactics and language that is associated with something that common with Christianity and such, that we're using it in a different light, in a different way, to challenge those ideals and make someone stop and question of what that really means, just by reclaiming a word in a different direction.
Right. Zach, do you have a follow-up?
Oh, yes, but I was going to Google it instead, but I'll ask it anyway. So are you saying that Buddhists are atheists?
I would say, I'm not an expert on this. From my understanding, is Buddhism is a non-theistic religion.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Cool. Other comments? Oh, Jeanette Emerson. I'm glad you're with us, Jeanette. Your turn. Go ahead.
Well, I had talked briefly before the meeting officially started about two friends that are AA members and have been now for more than 5 years, but it is beyond difficult to interact with either of them anymore. It is maybe I don't, after listening to this, maybe I don't truly understand addiction, because maybe it's community they're actually seeking with AA. The reason I called it a cult was because they become very religious as a result of AA, and they both sponsor other people using religion to keep them from hopefully backsliding. And maybe that's not the correct word either, so please forgive me. I was just wondering, how does Sobriety Without Superstition avoid, not so much, obviously you're not doing the religious part of it, but help me, can you help me understand addiction just a little bit? I guess maybe that's the question I need to ask. I'm a little confused, to be honest with you, about my own reaction. Maybe I should be a kinder, gentler person myself. I don't know.
Your own reaction to what?
If I were to go to lunch with them, if I were to go to dinner, all they want to talk about is the AA. It's like like they've replaced one addiction with another addiction.
Okay.
Is what it feels to me.
All right, that's a good point. Jeanette's bringing up, is it true that people who are addicted replace one addiction with another addiction in an effort to be sober, to reach sobriety? And the idea that the people in AA are just constantly talking about the religious aspect. Can you speak to the substitution of one addiction to another, and what is addiction?
If I were to, I'll see if I can frame my thoughts about this clearly. I do think there is potential for anyone who has any sort of a addiction issue to find replacements, to replace their drug of choice or behavior, addictive behavior, with some other substance or behavior. That's definitely a possibility. And I've heard that a lot too with people that go to AA, that it almost becomes an obsessive, like a compulsion to continue to keep going to these meetings and talking about it. And that's understandable. Addiction is, if I were to define it, would be, and even in materials I've read and in classes I've taken, it comes down to continuing a behavior even when it's harmful and you know it's harmful, to continue that behavior when it starts to affect your life in negative ways, and you continue to do it, is an addictive behavior. So if compulsively going to AA meetings is really harmful to the person or having some sort of negative effect on their life, I'm not sure. If it's helping them, then I mean, that's great for them. If they're living a happy, healthy life, whatever healthy for them may look like. We talk about these sorts of things a lot in meetings, and I think that is also something that's not really talked about in AA is, well, why would it be if people are kind of compulsively going to AA meetings? Why would they talk about that in an AA meeting? But like we've referenced before, we try and talk about the whole spectrum of addiction and recovery. And we talk about what it looks like to replace one behavior or one addiction with another, other healthy habits and choices, what that would look like for each individual. And that goes beyond just going to Sober Faction meetings. Like, we often talk about other hobbies, other things that bring you joy, other healthy outlets. So you're participating in a full, active, healthy life. And I think our differing formats of meetings really help with that, because again, AA meetings tend to be monotonous, tend to be repetitive, and not really go into the full spectrum of what recovery could look like.
And thank you. And I think another thing, something one of our members, Gary, mentioned in the chat, like, what is addiction, right? And one thing you'll notice that's different in Sober Faction is you'll rarely hear us actually talking about any particular substance. We're not talking about using as much as we're talking about that the act of substance use is more commonly a symptom of layers of other issues that we need to address, issues with trauma and coping skills. We talk more about the solutions of how to live life and function healthily and cope with things and set personal boundaries and work towards setting healthy goals. As when my experiences in Alcoholics Anonymous, when I would talk about a struggle with something, the most common answer I'd be given would be, go pray on it. And and that never helped me. And I tried, I went into a strictly atheist, and I was convinced myself for years that I was agnostic, right? Because I didn't have a choice. I was told to either start believing or I'm dead. And I believed it because I was almost dead before I got in there. And I had a whole room of people all telling me the same thing, and seeing people come in getting sober by this means, and it's the only means I saw available. And with Sober Faction, we're not asking that. People talk about serious problems, and we have real conversations about practical and real solutions about things, and showing people you don't need to follow that one-step path. Well, AA works for some people, Recovery Dharma works for other people, Smart Recovery works for others. Our main goal is to make sure there's another option that's available, making sure that there's a safe space for anybody to come struggling with any form of addiction, just sit, talk, share their experiences, and talk about practical real life things based on science and reality instead of superstition and force feeding people religion. While they'll try to tell you, in my experience in Atlanta, living in the Bible Belt, oh, it's not a religious program, right? It's a God of your understanding. But at the end of every single meeting, I had to hold hands and say the Lord's Prayer. And if I didn't, I was outcasting myself in the only community I was trying to seek help in. So we definitely try, while we are the Satanic Temple Sober Faction, we accept people of all different beliefs and faiths. And some of the differences.
Yeah, that's interesting. Reverend Jeanette, I'm going to ask you if you have a follow-up, but I want to ask Reverend John, can you speak to the strength? Is this the right word, the word strength, that you personally may have had to both leave an addiction and religion?
It's a very flattering way of putting it, so thank you. But it wasn't easy. It was, I definitely hit my rock bottom. But another thing, Sober Faction, we don't say that's a requirement as some other recovery programs do. But it's really hard when the only thing you see is the one answer. And it took me seeing people that I deeply cared about who were atheists dying because they were force-fed. The only solution was 12-step and abstinence. For me to finally start saying, fuck this, I'm out. And after time, I realized there's options and ways to work on recovery, from studying, reading books, coming to lectures like this, right, to start working towards that and to fully redefine what that means to me, what recovery looks like to me. And meeting others who had the same feelings, right, was extremely empowering. Meeting Joe Dee online through the Satanic Temple and being on the same wavelength. And then we started this and realized there's thousands of people who are on the same wavelength of looking for help and just needing a place to exist, right? And not being force-fed superstition through it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. But it also includes something I don't think you said specifically, how self-aware you were.
I think that took time. I don't think I just like woke up one day and was like, aha, right, I figured this out, right? It took time and a lot of work. Recovery is a active thing. It's not like I'm sober and I graduated.
When people say it takes a lot of work, that's usually thrown out there like, yeah, it takes a lot of work. And we understand there's a lot of work, that's effort. What is the work?
Oh, that's a hard question. I think that's unique to every individual is a one important thing. But for me for my work today in the Sober Faction is striving to live by the Seven Tenets. Striving to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason, and remembering that all creatures includes myself, which sometimes I can have a hard time with, right? Being my own worst critic at times and trying not to be, struggling for justice for myself and others, fighting for my own bodily autonomy for myself and others, and keeping that as a practice as my daily work, in the most secular sense possible. It's really helped me stay on top of what's important to me, right? Why am I doing this? And remind me how far I've come from where I was 12 years ago when I first got sober.
Mm-hmm. Priest Joe, can you explain what the work is?
For me, it's building and fostering community. What prevented me from continuing in recovery was not having a community that I felt comfortable in, that I felt I could be my authentic self in. And that really was a hindrance. Knowing I needed help, but not being able to get the help I needed because I felt ostracized or othered, or just unsafe being myself, unsafe being queer, unsafe being non-binary, being in a space where it was predominantly cis white nun, and not feeling safe or comfortable to talk about my personal experiences, and struggling to find that community, because AA is really the prominent peer support group. One thing that Sober Faction is striving for by having this other choice is making it accessible. It's so important for us to let people know that we can sign off on court mandated meetings, because many times, most often, people are court mandated to AA specifically. And that's a faith-based recovery program. And to be mandated by the courts to attend a religious program, especially if it's not aligned with your deeply held beliefs, really is the antithesis to what this country is about and what our laws are about. And especially for treatment for a health issue, a medical issue, a mental health issue, to be mandated to a program that's not based in science, that's based in superstition, is just doing so many people a disservice. So again, the work for me is being a part of the community, making sure I am maintaining my relationship with my community and helping broaden that community so others don't have to struggle to find a space where they feel safe and comfortable and authentic, that they can be their authentic selves in.
Okay, thank you. People tend to have a need to believe and belong in something. We're social creatures. Jeanette, I said I would come back to you, Jeanette, if you're still listening. I see you took your hand down. I was wondering if you had a follow-up.
No, but I do genuinely appreciate profound wisdom in both of the speakers tonight. And I'm just very grateful for their openness and honesty tonight.
Okay. Very good. Other comments or questions from the room? This is your chance to offer a statement, brief as it might be, but you can, whatever you want to say, you can say it. You can ask questions. If you don't have a question, I do, but I'm asking you, do you have a question, comment, observation? Zach. Let's go to Zach.
I would like to speak only if there's no one else who has not spoken who would speak.
Zach, you don't know how much I appreciate you saying that. That's the way I do it. Zach, Sandra, I met Sandra Day O'Connor once in my life, and she said, we talked because we're both involved in civics, and she told me that in the chambers room, nobody gets to speak twice unless everybody speaks once. And I thought that was great for these kind of meetings. But go ahead, Zach. It's your turn.
I'm just giving a moment in case someone else will pipe in. Fred Hill, but Fred Hill already spoke also.
Yes. No, you go ahead, Zach. It's your turn.
All right. So just a quick comment, which is I really appreciate what Sober Faction is doing. I just learned about them last week from someone I know who is struggling with addiction and has not really resonated at all with AA. I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing. I know from experience that sober living is an important part of the societal response to addiction and recovery, and that sober living housing and sober living houses are an unregulated industry. And almost everyone that I've encountered is based strongly on AA. Sometimes they allow for, quote unquote, other approaches, but allowing for and being immersed in is different. So I would love to see Sober Faction also talk about living experiences in community.
Okay. Anybody want to, Priest Joe, you want to comment on that or just accept it?
I do accept it. I do want to make a couple of comments on that. And that is a big part of why we're looking to develop the hospitals and institutions sub-legion in our health and wellness legion. And we do have a couple of really amazing Sober Faction members who do work in treatment facilities who are going to help us develop that, because it is important that people who are in sober living to also have a choice and to be able to access a support program that aligns with them and that they feel comfortable with, and be immersed in their home, in their living situation. So we are definitely working on that. And I was in shock the other day, and I posted the news article that someone shared with me everywhere that I could. And it was about grants, $500,000 in grants awarded to faith-based recovery treatments in, I forgot what state it was in, I don't know. But I was appalled that government money, tax money, was going to, again, faith-based treatment centers that have no foundation in medical care and science, and Medicaid money goes to this, goes to these programs and stuff. And I just feel it's, again, a disservice to so many people who are looking for something, who need something that's sound, that's based in sound understanding of what addiction and recovery is. So yeah, that's just my vent on all that money going to a faith-based treatment, recovery treatment centers. I just think it's wrong.
And one thing I will say is we have had members who have been going to sober livings and living in a sober living facility that have a requirement of attending, well, you must attend X amount of AA meetings. And they presented Sober Faction with some pushback, but we've been able to successfully advocate for many members who've been about to be kicked out from sober living facilities, members who've been about to be kicked out for rehabs, and we've been able to legally advocate for them so they can continue their recovery program without having to deal with the punishment of not believing in certain religions.
Cool. Let's go to, thank you for your responses and thank you for the question, Zach. But let's go to Bitch Tit 666. Bitch Tit 666. You're up.
Hi, I'm Sophie. Typically, the bitch tit 666 goes over like a little better in the Sober Faction meetings. I was really trying to change my name on here because like Priest Joe Dee, John, they know that's me, but you guys don't. I'm Sophie. It's actually a perfect time for me to speak because of what Reverend John was just talking about. I live in a sober living and I do have a requirement for meetings. So I've actually been part of Sober Faction for 9 glorious months now, and I credit them so much with where I am. I have almost 15 months clean, and I love them so much. They are truly my family, and for me, one of the absolute best things. I know a lot of people are like online meetings, it's so great. I can move wherever I want in the country. I'm at home in my parents' house in Baltimore right now. My support network is always there with me at a click away, anytime I need them. I have allies that live in California. I have allies that live in Texas. Yeah, I'm just like so thrilled and happy to be part of this organization. But there was pushback and there still is sometimes when I like try to talk about this fellowship, because people hear Satan and they tune out everything else. And that is such a common thing. So sometimes I just, instead of being like, it's through TST Sober Faction, I'm just like, oh, I'm in a different fellowship. It's called Sober Faction. And they hear that and they're like, oh, sober sounds good. And if they, want me to elaborate, of course I will. I'm happy to. But luckily my best friend is also my house manager, and she knows what this program does for me and what it means for me and how well I'm doing. And so while the requirement of everyone else who lives in my recovery house is that they have to go to in-person meetings, I did get special permission to do my meetings on Zoom because my fellowship is on Zoom, and this is my family, and this is what I need to stay sober and stay sane and live my best life. And there's other people in the organization of recovery houses that I'm in who have voiced that no one should be allowed to go to Zoom meetings, and you can't really get real recovery from Zoom meetings. And or people kind of want me to be like a little quieter about what I do because they don't want other people to like start, doing Zoom meetings instead of going to real meetings either. And I have a lot to say about that. I have a lot of opinions about that. I'm super proud of this fellowship. I am so thrilled to be part of this fellowship, and I'm currently in training to be a moderator. So I can actually, that's like sort of a lot of traditional 12-step fellowships have like service work where people will set up chairs or make coffee. And because our fellowship is primarily online, service work for us is like a little bit different. But I just got my computer, so now I can like actually really start working on modding Zoom meetings and being like more of an active member in this fellowship. But I really can't imagine. Yeah, we should have meetings. I've like been thinking about that all week. It's like a running joke. All right, someone once said, you guys should have meetings. We were like, oh my god, we should totally have meetings. We have like around 13 meetings every week. I probably go to more meetings than people in my house who go to real meetings. But I love this fellowship. I'm so grateful for it. I'm really glad that this meeting is happening so other people can like learn about it and ask questions. And feel free to send me a message. My name is Sophie again, not bitch tits. But yeah, I'm thrilled to be part of this, and thank you guys so much.
Thank you for your comments, Sophie. The only reason I said bitch tit 66 is that's what's on your thing. Your screen is showing that. But I appreciate your comments. So can I ask you a personal question? And you don't have to answer this, but how long were you not sober?
So I'm 24. I have been trying to get clean since, like, seriously, since about like age 18, age 19 is when I really started working.
We don't know how old you are, so.
I'm 24.
Okay.
Since I started like really trying to work towards getting clean. And I did NA for years and just relapse after relapse. And I wasn't successful in that fellowship because similar to what Reverend John said, you have an issue and they strongly urge you to, pray on it. And that wasn't something that I felt like fit for me. I tried to like fake it till I made it and like be like, okay, I'm praying, and it's just, that wasn't what it is for me. And I have found a fellowship that 100% accepts me for who I am, and I don't have to be told to pray on it. I can talk to my friends and be like, here's what's going on, and they can give me actual concrete advice, and that's amazing. So yeah, I've been trying to get clean for probably around like 6 years, and probably around 4 years seriously, where it was just constant relapsing after relapsing. This is the most time I've ever had in my entire life, and I'm doing the best I've ever done in my entire life, and I credit a huge portion of that to Sober Faction.
Congratulations. We talked about the word work and effort, and in your testimony to the work and effort that's happening in your journey to become sober, and the sobriety a member of the Sobriety Faction. You are, and it's so good to hear your words. Thank you, Sophia. Let's go to Mary Wall. Mary Wall, are you there, Mary?
Yes, I'm here. I have to admit, that I'm somewhat clueless about addiction, but my impression of AA is that it's been tremendously successful. I guess it's, AA stands for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I guess a few years ago, addictions, I guess, spread to NA and food addictions, sex addictions. I guess support groups are popular or whatever. But I guess one of my impressions about Alcoholics Anonymous is that by definition, the alcoholics tend to be more religious than the general population. And I even with regard to families like Al-Anon and stuff like that, I had, I guess, a neighbor. I guess her children had grown, and I guess her husband passed on due to cancer, and she more or less was drinking more than she should be. She ended up in the hospital and was told basically she took another drink, that would more or less be the end of her. And but there was AA, and they had Christmas parties, and even in terms of isolation or whatever, basically they seem to have been one of the most successful support groups there was. But basically it does seem they do tend to rely on a religion, so that basically this group offers an alternative to maybe people that aren't as religious as maybe a lot of alcoholics tend to be. You're doing good work, and I appreciate being able to listen to your stories. So again, thank you, and have a
Well, thank you, Mary. Any comments, Priest Joe Dee?
Yes. Like I said, AA has and does work for a lot of people who have those beliefs. I still do advocate for folks seek outside kind of medically science-based recovery as well, in addition to AA as a peer support group. But yes, it is successful, absolutely, for many folks. I think the misconception that it is astoundingly successful overall is because of it being kind of the most prominent peer support group, the history of AA as one of the founding big peer support groups. It kind of has the market, in peer support recovery. So you don't often hear about those who didn't get help, who didn't have success with AA. You primarily hear about those who have, so the numbers are kind of skewed. But more studies are coming out, in medical journals about recovery, medical studies about addiction and recovery, and they're including more peer support groups in those studies because there are more now. Reverend John listed a few of them. So hopefully in the future, we have a better understanding and a better statistics on the success rate of certain peer support groups versus others.
I'd also think an interesting way of looking at it is AA being successful. You could also say the Catholic Church is really successful, right? Or Christianity is very successful. Doesn't mean it should be the only way of thinking, right? Doesn't mean it should be the only way of options. While we take our hat off. If it works for you, it works for you, and that's awesome. But it does. There's a lot of people who it doesn't work for, right? And we want to present that option where there's a space for that too.
Right. You're offering. Let's go to Diane Shear. Diane, what?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I don't have a question so much as, well, number one, let me say this was a fascinating presentation. This was really, really interesting. But one of the things I want to do is just echo what I know that Ken mentioned, and I think Zach and Sophie as well. The work that TST is doing, even beyond what they're doing with recovery work, right, is really interesting and is great work. But I am still struggling with how many people, the majority of people, simply do not have a lot of imagination, do not have a sense of humor, do not get irony, and take one look at the name of the organization,
Yes.
right? And it just must freak them out. So kudos to you guys for doing really difficult work to begin with, and then making it doubly hard on yourselves when people don't take you seriously and think you're a bunch of nutcase, satanic worshipers. So that was really my only comment.
Oh, okay.
Devil's work is never done.
Replies, Joe Dee.
Thank you for that. And I think part of our work as TST as a whole is trying to start those conversations and discussions, and hopefully, I know there are some people that probably will never have a change of heart or a change of mind, but opening conversations about acceptance and learning about a group or about a person or about anything before having a reaction to it, asking questions, and questioning what you've been told your whole life, and questioning beliefs that you grew up just thinking were true because they were the mainstream beliefs, or you were indoctrinated as a child into them, and kind of, well, again, just seeking knowledge, promoting learning and asking questions and open dialogue. I think that's a big part of our work. We just want to change those minds, move away from the status quo and have people question things.
Well, you're certainly with the right audience, because this is a group that totally gets that. My fear is that particularly these days, okay, the normal population just sees a word like Satan and they don't want to discuss anything. That's it. It's a red flag. It's like waving a red thing in front of a bull, and it's got to be just such an uphill battle.
I'm waiting to ask a question, but wait. Christ, I think I might have.
Who's whispering? I'm sorry. Did I talk over someone?
No, that was Carrie.
Oh, okay. But anyway, I'm just thinking, your battle is difficult enough with all of the stuff that you're doing. And, this is just another hurdle that you're really going to have to work through. But kudos to you guys. Thank you so much. The presentation was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they're doing it. The thing that you make this, I asked the same kind of question earlier, Diane, and I wondered about the marketing aspect of this. But it appears that marketing Satan has some benefits. It's just not because, but then they've explained that, they're lampooning and mocking the religious stuff. So maybe they're on to something and maybe not. We can get in, and part of my questions, if we have time, is going to be relative to the demographics and relative to the recovery rates as compared to other programs. But before we get into any of that, if we have time, let's go to Carrie. Carrie.
Thank you. And I'm apologizing before. I had unmuted myself so I would be sure to be ready, and I forgot. Okay. My comment is just in line of what we've been talking about. First of all, the program is so excellent, and with all the subsets of it, all the different aspects of it. So there's really something for everybody. But my question was, I wonder if you, and I know you're under the umbrella of the Satanic Temple, of course, and that's your thing, and it's very important. And it doesn't freak me out. But I'm wondering, have you ever thought about how many people that you aren't reaching because of the satanic part? And they don't even necessarily have to be religious. They might be appropriate candidates for the program, but they're turned off. That's all.
Yeah, it's a great question, and we've discussed stuff like that. Of course, we think about that, but like we kind of talked about earlier, we're adding another choice for folks, and we're hoping that more choices become available for that would cater to a whole, myriad of beliefs and ideals and communities. I don't think we should forego who we are to make us more palatable for everyone else. There are other groups that folks can join, and I'm hoping, like I said just before, that people will look into what our group is about before casting judgment or not considering joining. And I think those who would be turned off by our symbolism would maybe be those folks who would align more with AA or with Smart Recovery or.
Okay, I see.
Can I just?
So it's sort of a litmus test then.
I wouldn't call it a test. I would just call it pluralism. We're just adding an other.
Well, no, I meant using satanic as a litmus test. It's kind of like self-screening from people who might not like it. But it's so wonderful. All they have to do is read the tenets, yes, and they'll see how fabulous it is.
You would,
anyway,
Carrie,
thank you. Yeah,
Carrie.
Yes.
Carrie, hi, this is Jeanette. I'm so sorry to barge in because I do feel like, here's the deal. For me, for my part, I did not even know that the Satanic Temple existed until they started reaching notoriety around the work they did with the Westboro Baptist Church, putting them down and being there against them. And then they started showing up at city council meetings to put in their 2 cents worth for, I forget what that beginning business with the prayer and all that crap that they do at these city council meetings to open them up. And then when we went to Free Flow, they had a table at Free Flow and they were handing out the Sobriety Without Superstition. And I thought, just another feather in their cap. And that's when I wanted to have them come, and I got the business card from them. And I thought, you guys have got to come and talk about this with us, because this is a huge big deal. That is another thing I did not know they did. It's so I just wanted to put that out there. A lot of people know about them and the work that they've done and in other fields, but it's really difficult when you don't have these significant religious budgets and you don't have federal government dollars, which should not be going to organized religions, supporting the work that these other groups are doing that are really should not be a part of our. I'm on a soapbox and anyway.
Well, okay. All right. Well, we like that you're on a soapbox. There's lots of reasons, but let's thank you, Jeanette, for finding this organization and bringing them to us. We
Amen. Absolutely.
We really appreciate it. So we have Christopher and then Dr. Strangelove and Fred. I'm going to put you after Dr. Strangelove, if that's okay. I know you understand. So let's go to Christopher.
Hey, I'm Christopher. I wanted to say the one thing, I have been a member of AA since I was in my mid-20s. I'm 41 years old. I've had multiple lengths of sobriety, and often they have ended because of my being made felt less than because I'm not willing to be subservient to God, and I think that that's that I before starting attending meetings of the Satanic Sobriety sect, I was actively attempting to drink myself to death because AA really had failed me. I was going to meetings and people were still telling me, well, your only answer is God. And thankfully I was able, I as a like-minded person, checked out the Satanic Sobriety Faction meetings. And I think that the concept of us promoting to or being lost on quote unquote normies is a bit, I think it's a bit lost there, where I don't think that the Satanic Sobriety sect is meant for everybody. And I think that folks that balk at the concept of individual thought and scientific reason, there are programs for them. I had something else I was going to say, but
well, how long have you been in sobriety?
I've been in recovery for over 15 years.
Oh.
I had lengths of sobriety of 3 years, 4 years. I just came off of 2 years sobriety. I was able to stay sober throughout most of the pandemic. Some stuff happened, and going to meetings, it was just every meeting that I went to was just let go, let God, pray on it. You need to pray, you need to pray, you need to pray. And I decided that I decided that I was done.
Okay. Well, Reverend John, you want to make a comment, and then we'll go to Dr. Strangelove.
Awesome. Hail you, Christopher.
Then Fred.
That's incredible that you're still at it, still working on it. I'm so glad you're here. One thing kind of back to the question of, like, why Satan? Are you not reaching as many people that you could? Before we were the Satanic Temple Sober Faction, it started as a small, purely secular recovery group called Without a Prayer. Started in Metro Atlanta. It was a purely secular group. It's actually how Joe Dee and I originally met before we developed it and restructured and started from scratch with Sober Faction. We were only able to reach maybe 300 people. And even still, and this was with an in-person meeting, and the town was trying to have it shut down, calling it evil, just for purely removing the word God from recovery, just calling it a atheist recovery group. We restructure it called the Satanic Temple Sober Faction, and now we have over 5,000 people we're reaching. If we were just a secular recovery group, I don't think we would be on this panel right now, talking and reaching more people. So I think just the fact by restructuring and allowing ourselves to truly be ourselves gathers the attention of allowing others to go, no, I could be myself too. I don't have to try to make a 12-step program work or an alternative for this or alternative that to still fit that niche of what is considered appropriate recovery. And by us allowing us to freely be ourselves, we're now getting the attention that's deserved on the topic.
Well, that is fantastic. If you don't mind if I comment, from 300 to 5,000 means that obviously your success has been increased. And that's so great.
And
That's all.
I could just add on to that and kind of come off of what Christopher said about Sober Faction not meant for everyone. I don't think any group is meant for everyone. And that is also part of what Sober Faction is about, that that individuality, that not everyone has to be the same or believe the same thing. There should be more options out there because everyone is different, and that's okay. It's not that one thing is meant for everyone or not. It's that we're all different and we all have different needs, and we all can create spaces that are for people who are aligned with us, and that's okay.
Cool. Okay, Dr. Strangelove, and then Fred. Dr. Strangelove, are you there?
Hey, yeah. I just want to say I am so proud of Joe Dee and Reverend John. I really can't thank you guys enough for your time and dedication and the thoughtfulness of the language that you've used in this meeting. For me, I've got about 9 months of sobriety, and I started off in the secular Zoom meetings because as a traumatized child of Southern Baptism, traditional AA programs and the religious elements were just an absolute non-starter for me. Like I still have never been to an in-person meeting. I never would. Like, no shade on people who need that to recover. But it would not have worked for me. And the tenor of the 12 steps has also been a struggle. Although, when you get to a point where you're just casting around, looking for a lifeline to pull yourself out of the darkness that you have succumbed to, really anything can be a lifeline. And I was in the secular rooms when I heard sober colleagues mention Sober Faction. And at first I was like, I don't identify as a Satanist. I'm not into dogmatic anything. Like, I don't know that would be for me. And I went to a few of the meetings, and as I started to, participate more with the fellowship, I started reading back about, the history of Satanism, and I don't think that the word lampoon really is appropriate in this, but a lot of the organized monotheistic religions have turned the term Satan into, like, they give that term to anything that disagrees with them in order to keep people in line. Sort of like they burned women. They didn't burn witches, they burned women. And so that term has really been hijacked by monotheistic religions, really to coerce people to stay in line. And as I've grown both in my recovery journey and just looking out of interest into the Satanic community, I love the element of free thinking, and I've started to kind of delve into the rituals. I have a couple of allies who I'm going to work on this with, who I text regularly, and I've never met any of these people in person, but they are such a nourishing part of my life at this point and help me daily, and give me something to look forward to. So I just really commend you guys, Joe Dee and Reverend, for speaking up and speaking out and being a voice for so many of us who wouldn't have found recovery in the traditional rooms.
Well, thank you, Dr. Strangelove. That is such a heartwarming, and it seems like a success story. I'm happy you shared it with us. Is your name in parentheses, and How I Learned to Love? What that movie? How I Learned to Love the Bomb and Stop Worrying? Is that the Stanley?
Yeah,
Kubrick?
How I Learned to Quit Worrying and Love the Bomb. It actually came like, I am an actual physician. I have letters behind my name, but for the sake of anonymity, I would rather not have my actual name out there. So
100% fine with me and with all of us, but I appreciate the sentiment, Dr. Strangelove. A good movie, Stanley Kubrick, from what, early 60s, mid 60s,
1964.
Well, I knew Fred would know. All right, Fred, let's what's your comment or question?
I think like just the very name Satanic Temple is kind of would attract people that are like thinking something unusual, something that they know. Okay, this is a bunch of straight-laced people. People that think, okay, I'm feeling a little bit freaky. Maybe these people will accept me for my freakiness, and they're not going to judge me or be like, oh, you have a tattoo. Ooh, you don't wear the right clothes, or you don't wear your hair the right way, or that sort of thing. And I mean, I've encountered that, and even though my hair is not all that long, but I've gotten comments like, ooh, you have long hair. What are you doing here? Or but that was a comment that this is just kind of out of left field, but I don't know if anyone's familiar with this series, the graphic novels Lucifer, which there's a TV series based on it, but I much prefer the graphic novel, which has a very interesting series out of offshoot of the Sandman series, which I thought that was a very fascinating mythic take on Satan. And Satan was, and they were Lucifer at one point saying, I don't see why everyone blames me for getting people to go to hell. I mean, I don't have to tempt anyone. They do it on their own. And they blame me for all the evil.
Well, comments. Priest, Joe Dee, and Rev, you want to make a comment, and then we're going to close it out. This is your opportunity to comment on what Fred just said, and then sum it all up for us.
You open the floodgates, bringing up comments, comic books. But
oh my goodness! I put in the chat a couple months ago. I actually the Satanic Temple has religious services every Tuesday and Saturday virtually, and I co-led a service that was on Satan in comics, and Lucifer, of course, came up. But that just kind of speaks to how universally recognized the character, the symbol, the history, mythology of Satan is. When you say Satan, everyone has some concept of that, and it's going to draw folks in no matter what. And I think it's very rare that one symbol, one character, one concept can do that universally. So with that being said, I think the Satanic Temple Sober Faction is open to all, and hopefully opens everyone's minds to new ideas, new ways to recover, new ways to build community and teach and learn from each other. It's not just for Satanists. It's not just for substance use. It's for overall recovery and health and community. And that's why I am so proud of it. I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud and grateful for everyone else who works with us in it. And I hope we can have more talks like this with more groups and just spread the good word.
Rev?
Yes, and thank you. And I think one thing that gets brought up a lot in our meetings, because we've talked a lot what's so different about Sober Faction. And I think the one you hear about a lot is we have fun. Like we have a lot of fun. Like we're not just talking about how hard life is all the time. Well, it does happen, and there are hard times in life. But most of our meetings, we're laughing and having a great time by the end of them, right? And we're not living anonymously in shame about our recovery, right? We're proud of who we are and proud of our accomplishments and proud of our beliefs and celebrating each other's unique identities as a community together. Not feeling shamed into a certain way of thinking and seeing it actually that it works, I think has been the biggest thing. When we first started this, we're like, well, it works for a few of us, we're sharing our ideas, but we've been doing this for over 2 years now, and it's working, right? As you've heard of other people have coming to the community, finding sobriety for the first time when they've tried it for years, right? And other community with other more successful recovery programs. And now it's actually working, and people are finally living the lives that they want to live and building communities they want to build and loving the people they want to love without shame. And being able to do that in sobriety has been absolutely incredible. I'm incredibly grateful for everyone in the Sober Faction community, because each one of them is celebrating triumphs each day. Right? I've been 12 years of recovery, and I still learn something new from someone who's 2 days in Sober Faction. And it's absolutely incredible. And it continues to help me be the person I want to be and strive to be a better person every day. So, and I'm so grateful to be here and to talk to you all, so we can continue to help people spread the word and allow people to stop and think a little bit more with more free thoughts, so to speak. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Reverend Joe. And thank you, Priest Joe Dee. I'm so grateful that you both have taken your time out of your busy lives and what you're doing and wherever you are in Atlanta and New York to spend some time with us. And I think your presentation was wonderful. I think the discussion was wonderful. I also want to thank everybody who asked a question, and I want to thank everybody who just was there listening and showed up tonight, because it's your time, and I'm so respectful of people's time. And you spent it with us tonight, and I appreciate that so much. And sobriety is a goal for so many, and it's not easy. And if you need help, you've been shown a path. In this path might just work for you. If that's what you're looking for, then check them out. So I appreciate it. We don't have a meeting next month, but we do have a meeting in September. And if you need to get in touch with us and learn more information about sobriety, the Sobriety Faction, you can check out our website, you can check out their website. And from now until we meet again, all I can say to you is you have my deepest gratitude for being with us this evening. My name is Ken Hurley, First Coast Free Thought Society. And Madeline, are you there? All right.
I'm here.
Madeline is the technical guru, and she's the one that ends the meeting. She pushes a little button, and we all go home to our own little thoughts and things. So Madeline, when you are ready, end the meeting. I
just
doing a great
really
job.
want to say thank you to our presenters and to everyone who has shared their stories and their struggles, and I appreciate their honesty. It's really meant a lot to me to hear that from you all. So thank you. Everyone have a wonderful evening and be well.